What's up, everybody? Matthew here. Thanks for checking into the YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about John Owen and the 7 true duties of the gospel minister. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name is Matthew. I'm one of the pastors here at Gospel Fellowship PCA. We are a Reformed Bible-believing church just north of Pittsburgh. Love to have you come check us out in real life. Now, I am very interested in, of course, in the vocation of the pastor. After all, I am a pastor. And so when I was reading Joel Beeke's work, Puritan Theology, a work that I just talked about on a previous video a couple days ago, man, I was thrilled to read this chapter about the offices of the church. And so here in the chapter on the offices of the church, we're looking at what the Puritans believed about such offices as the pastor, the ruling elder, the deacon. Some of them even believed in the doctor of the church or the professor of the seminary or the university. Different Puritans had different views on how many offices there were. In fact, even with our good friends in the OPC, we're in the PCA here, but in the OPC, we sort of argue about whether or not there's 2 offices or 3. Some people say that teaching elders are distinct from ruling elders, which are both distinct from deacons. Others would say teaching and ruling elders are the same, and they're distinct from deacons. All who are Reformed agree that the apostolic office has gone out in redemption history, as the apostles have all died, and none of us can claim apostolic authority to inscripturate the Word of God anymore with new revelations or anything like that. But for the most part, then, that leaves pastors with the duties of the ordinary ministry of the pastoral office. And herein, Joel Beeke, he is citing John Owen's works in volume 16, page 82 and following, so 1682 if you're looking for the actual reference. There's a work called The Nature of the Godly Church, in which John Owen gives 7 duties of the true gospel minister. And so I'm just going to tick them through for you very, very quickly. I think you'll appreciate this list that Owen puts together and Beeke quotes. First of all, the pastor's job is to feed the flock. Pastors, number 1, your main priority every week is to preach and teach the Word of God. You are a Bible expositor. Now, I realize that your schedule gets very, very busy. You have all kinds of things that throw themselves at you. There are all sorts of emails that come in, people trying to put themselves in your calendar. They want their priorities to rise to the level of your priorities, and all of that is good and well. Pastor, I just want to remind you, though, no matter what else happens, your true mission is to preach and to teach the Word of God. That means that you're going to have to devote yourself to the study of the Word so that you can rightly divide the Word of God. Devote yourself to the preaching and teaching ministry. Second, to the fervent prayer for the church. Now, I like the word fervent. Fervent is one of those words that just saying it out loud inspires me and stirs me up within. It's kind of like a word like zeal or devotion. There are certain words that's endurance, faithfulness, just saying the word. It's like, yes, I want that. Fervent prayer, Pastor. Your job is to pray fervently for your church. And fervently then is the opposite of superficially or negligently. You are to devotedly pray with your heart and your mind in concert for your people, because your people need prayer constantly, all the time. Pray for them, Pastor. Whatever means you want to devise to get your prayer requests before you, whether it's notebooks or lists or prayer chain emails, whatever it is, Pastor, be fervent in your prayers for your people. Third, you exist to administer the sacraments. And this is something that only the ministers can do. Now, I don't know what your church's ecclesiology is, but in Reformed churches, and remember, we come from that line of faithful Puritan ministers and theologians here, it is the ministers alone who can administrate the sacraments, which are only 2, baptism and the Lord's Supper. Just like in the Old Testament, there was the Passover meal, which was regularly done annually to remind of God's delivering works, and there was circumcision, which could only be performed but once. So also we have the Lord's Supper, which we take regularly as a covenant renewal, and we have baptism, which is to be performed only but once. Pastor, one of your main duties is to administer the sacraments faithfully. Fourth, to defend the doctrines of the gospel. Pastor, have you considered that one of your major duties is to defend true doctrine? That's why Jude says, right? I wanted to write to you about some other things, but I felt it necessary that we contend for the faith once and for all handed down to the saints. Pastor, however are you going to do that in your teaching and preaching ministry, in your private consultations, in encouraging the families of your church, perhaps even public writings or doing the work of a public theologian? You are to defend the true doctrines of the faith, and especially the doctrine of the gospel, lest it be maligned and contorted and distorted by those who would be so pleased to do that very thing, diabolical as they are. Fifth, labor to the conversion of souls. Pastor, you have souls in your church. Many of them are saved. Some of them are not. There are many souls that are not saved that live and dwell and exist outside the safe confines of the Bible-believing church. Pastor, go get them. Go after them. Devise whatever methodology you want to do to evangelize. If you want to hand out tracts, hand out tracts. If you want to send mission teams, send mission teams. If you want to get a bullhorn and stand in the middle of a street and proclaim the gospel, do it. But Pastor, please be motivated to go out and to find those souls that need to hear the gospel and give them the gospel. Trust the Spirit to do the work, but you give them the gospel. Sixth, to attend to the needs of believers. And here we're talking about their physical needs. Now, we have a whole office called the diaconate, or the deacons, which tend to the poor and the widows and the orphans of the church. But Pastor, just because you're a teaching elder, or let's say you're even a ruling elder and you don't happen to be a deacon, that doesn't mean you can't do that work. You can share the burden of the diaconate, because the burdens are great. There are many, many needs. There are material needs. There are spiritual needs, psychological needs. There are family needs, physical assets that are needed. Pastor, please be mindful of the fact that some of your people are suffering, and you would do very well to make sure that you tend to their concerns. And then seventh, and I very much appreciate the fact that Owen cites this as well, your duty is to lead a godly life as an example to your flock. Pastor, your people have to be the kind of people that can look to you for a godly example. And the way you carry yourself, and the way that you speak, and the way that you converse on Facebook and Twitter, and the way that you love your wife, and the way that you talk about your wife, and the way that you discipline your children, and the way that you show compassion to your children, and the way that you manage your schedule. Pastor, please, by all means, lead a godly example for your flock. Those are the 7 duties of the godly pastor. Thank you, Joel Beakey, for bringing those to us. Thank you, John Owen, for giving those to us. By the way, if you like my cool shirt, my Edwards Homeboy Here shirt, I made it myself. I designed it, and my friends at Cassidy Craft Corner made them for me. There's a link in the description of the video if you want to get my homeboy shirt. Pretty cool, huh? Anyways, love you lots. Thanks for checking in. Talk to you later.